what LSU is trying to avoid is missing on the next hire for a coordinator. And, what are you going to do? There's a new name in the mix, according to footballscoop.com. Again, let's all refresh our golden rule during this. Do not trust anything. Recognize that nothing is permanent until it is permanent. But the rumored name does make sense. According to Football Scoop, Brian Kelly is targeting Kentucky defensive coordinator Brad White for the job. They said that he was in Baton Rouge yesterday, that a deal could come together quickly if White thinks that he would be a fit on the staff. Now, for Kentucky, they will likely want to fight for White as they just lost their co-defensive coordinator, John Sumrall, to be head coach at Troy. But the reason why, there seems to be some legitimacy here, among other things. He has a very good resume, which we can get into, but beyond that, reportedly, I was linked to some old articles from last year, Jake, where when Notre Dame had their DC vacancy, like right behind Marcus Freeman, it seems like Brad White was who Brian Kelly was really into. Now, of course, he ended up going with Freeman. Well, maybe it's like Zeppelin, right? The song remains the same. He wanted Marcus Freeman here at LSU. Freeman becomes the Notre Dame head coach. Is Brad White that guy? Right behind him once again. Jake, what do you think? Because obviously you are someone who you have a lot of respect for Kentucky, for what Stoops has done. Yeah. Definitely up there.
President of the Louisiana chapter of Kentucky football.
Yes, essentially. Of Kentucky football, not basketball, but Kentucky football.
Yeah, literally just football.
Which, by the way, the universe seems to be aligning for an excellent topsy-turvy, Stranger Things upside down, where Kentucky beats the hell out of LSU in football, and then maybe LSU basketball goes and beats the hell out of Kentucky at basketball. We'll see. We'll see.
It's funny. So I had Matt Jones on the SEC show, Kentucky Sports Radio, and he was talking about the juice for football is taking away some of the juice for basketball. And he was talking, we could play the clip. He's talking about, man, this is why y'all like SEC football so much. I'm just finding out why it's so fun. But Kentucky defensively, like offensively this year was kind of their explosion year. They were a team that just ran the football. They had Lynn Bowden playing quarterback, who's a natural receiver, and they were finding ways, and it was creative, and it was a really nice job. But this year they blew up offensively because of Will Levis, and Cohen came in as the OC. But defensively, they've been there. Yeah, they've been there defensively for a very long time. And somebody that we've talked about, Brad White, has been a part of that. Now, when you look at Brad White's resume, the most impressive thing to me is he has spent a lot of time in the NFL, but he's also been a coordinator calling plays at the college level. So he's got the best of both worlds. Yeah. Like he has that experience he had with the Colts. He was there from 2012 to 2017 in different roles. Yeah. Right. So that part of it I really like because the Colts had some good defenses mixed in there as well. He spent his time as a GA. He's done that dance. He's gone from Murray State to Air Force before he goes to the NFL. So he's been on different levels, had success there, worked his way up, and he's kind of hit every experience. Because what did we talk about last year, right? With both of the coordinator hires, they didn't have that play calling experience. They had nice resumes. They've been a lot of places, which is great. But having that experience as a defensive coordinator, that part of it is the most intriguing part, knowing that that's something last year that a lot of people, had a hard time dealing with because, offensively, it's like you had some certain situations and you had to call timeouts because you didn't have a play in or you didn't have the right concept up, or some of the moments when you would have liked to seen this, you saw something else. So.
Well, and then even defensively, although I'm not sure how much of this was because of Durante Jones and how much of this were maybe some of the restrictions that were put on him pre-bye week. But remember, even defensively, they were shockingly honest about how Lane Kiffin just told though, like, hey, dude, y'all are just doing the same thing every time. Like everybody, like it's super, super predictable. Which now, again, though, with how we look, it felt like after the bye week, Jones was fully allowed to run the defense that he wanted. So I don't know if that was actually on him. But either way, it was the reality of the situation. So you mentioned the resume. I do think that's great. The 6 years with the Colts, last 3 as the outside linebackers coach. He then goes to Kentucky in that same role. He helps develop Josh Allen in a big way, who, of course, we saw. Well, unfortunately, he's stuck there with Herb in Jacksonville, which we'll probably talk more Herb again later, as that just is a fiery, awful Zeppelin crash of a situation, like, the humanity and whatnot. But he goes to Kentucky. He again gets promoted, I think, after a year to being co-DC for the last 3 years. And in those 3 years, they've done really well. And
Josh Pascal, the outside linebacker from this year, highest rated or second highest rated outside linebacker in the country.
Damn. Okay. And if you just look at LSU, and it seemed like that was a position that really started to come on at the end of last year, and one that could benefit maybe from that leadership. But you look at where Kentucky ranked in 2020 in terms of defensive categories in the SEC. They were top 6, so at the top half, a little bit above the top half, in basically every category. They led the league in pass defense, and they forced 22 turnovers in 2020. That led the SEC. In 2019, they became the first Kentucky team since 1979 to not allow more than 30 points in a regular season game. They're ranked 13th in nationally, that is, in scoring defense, and 21st nationally in total defense. Obviously, this year's Kentucky team, they're trying to win 10 games for the first time since the 70s, and you all saw what that Kentucky defense did to LSU and how he bragged on them. So they have, quite frankly, been fantastic. And when you combine a few different elements, Jake, when you combine the solid resume with, if these reports are true, and this is Brian Kelly's guy, when you combine White's resume and Kelly's ability to know what he's looking for in hires, right? His past 3 defensive coordinator hires at Notre Dame are all head coaches now. When you look at that, you start to get pretty excited about this. I think it's also worth mentioning he's 39 years old. So a young cat to have this much success, right? To have this much of a resume maybe shows that that he has quickly impressed wherever he has been at, and I like a little youth to balance out some of the kind of CEO age of Brian Kelly. So I mean, this would be a really good name. It feels like if this indeed ends up coming to pass. All
right, so a lot of people are probably going to ask, okay, if this is the guy, what kind of defense does he run? I'll give you a quick breakdown real quick. He ran a 4.34 1.2% of the time, a 3.44 3.5% of the time. Here's where he gets a bulk of his action. 3.35 69.7% of the time. Now 2.45 21% of the time. So it's a multiple defense. He lives in that 3.35, which LSU used a lot of at the end of last year when they had the 3 linebackers with Clark, Baskerville, and Mike Jones. So this looks like it would be a 3-down, multiple defense type guy, and LSU showed you. I mean, they did it in the middle of the year a year ago and had a lot of success in it. I would assume if he does come over, that would be what he kind of lived in. They're more of a nickel team than a dime team. Obviously, you're going to see that 90.8% of the time they're in nickel there in those certain situations, only 4.5% of the time in a dime situation. So it kind of gives you a defensive breakdown of who they would be.
Now, there is one major red flag. He played linebacker at Wake Forest. And you all know how we feel about Wake Forest on this team, on team off the bench. But it was a long time ago. Hopefully he's shed his demon deaconism, and we can find some sort of common ground here. I'm not entirely sure. I just want it out there. I don't want y'all to think that we're hiding any information from anybody. So, okay, last thing here, Jake, timing-wise. If he really was in Baton Rouge yesterday, if this is going to happen, I feel like a deal would almost have to be announced today. It's just like the NFL where it's like when a free agent visit happens, like the guy almost, like if he leaves town, then he's not signing.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of
you free agent visit, you get out of town, they don't offer you a contract. You ain't getting the contract there,
No,
Chief.
that was nice to see you. Thanks for the tryout.
Hey, thanks for running that 40, even though we've got 6 years of NFL tape on you. Thanks for running that cone drill. You're welcome.
It's always kind of intrigued me. Why do they do that? Is that to see like if you're in shape, maybe, or
I'm
something?
I'm over here with Carl Nix one time, who made like 3 Pro Bowls, and they're asking him to run a 40. He looked at that player personnel and said, "I ain't running a 40."
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, come on. He's at least earned that.
Like 9 years in the league, 10 years in the league, like run a 40.
Also, like a 40, that's like a specific non-football training. If you're trying to like maximize your 40, that doesn't really have. Short draw Whitetails asking what happened with Wake Forest earlier this year. LeBear hooked us up with a little $500 parlay, and we did it on Ole Miss and Wake Forest, and all the boys are going to win $500. It's going to be PS5s for all, a happy Christmas, and Wake Forest blew an 18-point lead in the late third quarter. So we will never forgive the New England for all time.